Do you think a storyteller is lying to themselves or in some type of delusion to think that they just want to write for themselves and they don't need an audience?
I mean, you can write a blog and not show it to anybody. You can write books and screenplays and never show them to anybody. But then what do they, if no one sees them, then they don't exist. You're creating something in a little silo that no one's ever going to be inside of. And I think to some degree you need to suspend your disbelief that, someone's going to make this. I can see it on screen. I think you need to do that. I interviewed Derek Haas and I'm blanking on the other writer. It's a writing team. I interviewed them a long time ago for some organization on stage. It was a writer's thing. And they had just had a movie come out and they were driving around with the producer and they were popping into theaters. They were just sticking their head in and they were just spending like 10, 15 minutes watching the audience watch the movie. And then they would get back in the car, go to the next theater, walk in, do it again. And they kept doing that all over town. And I thought, and so when I started the interview, when I told them everything, I said, I want to start with that. Because I think that's the thing that when you're just typing, it's hard to imagine, and I always did, it would be so great to, have a company they give you a check and then they make the story and it's good and then people see it and I always imagined that, but I also imagined it when the industry wasn't what it is now. And, Martin Scorsese's on Netflix. So I keep thinking, people are like, you can make a movie and go out and sell. I'm like, yeah, Martin Scorsese couldn't get his movie made, so he went to Netflix. That's why he went to Netflix. He couldn't get his movie made. Martin Scorsese, with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, couldn't get his movie made with Al Pacino. Couldn't get his movie. So I should do what now? I should make my own movie and maybe go to Netflix and maybe go to them. That's great. Amazon Studios, Ted Hope's running that thing. They're making some good stuff. I would definitely try to work with that guy. But I don't have a movie in me anymore. Not gonna happen. It would have to be, I know what it would take and I would not put myself through it.
I think that's okay to be there because if you know how expensive, how time intensive, also you can put that movie out there and then that's it.
But also I also don't know what story I want to invest that much in. Like that much time, that much money, that much, and I know from Vampire Mob, it's really hard to keep people attached to a project. And if the ball gets rolling, and let's say one of your cast member dies, and you're in the middle of the movie, what do you do then? What do you do when one of your cast members has a family member who dies, and you stop production, and then you got to bring it all back up, and then match all the continuity and. It's a lot.
I mean, I know this is a film channel, film and screenwriting.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said for having a book and having something in your hand, something tangible.
Sure.
And I think maybe we'll go back to that a little bit. I don't know, maybe we won't. But I miss that, and I know right now I'm not able to read. So I think that's okay if you're saying I don't want to make a movie right now. But you still want to write, you still want to tell stories, whether it's on Instagram or whatever. I think that's wonderful.
I've got 38 short scripts written, done for play shorts, ready to roll. I guess in terms of, it's not that I don't have an energy, it's that I don't want to spend the energy on one thing. Like that's a big thing that's going to take a lot of time. It would have to be a story that I was on fire about to make. And when Vampire Mob was over in terms of it being a live series, I started play shorts and I put my producer hat on, and the weakness in Vampire Mob was all the actors. Like I needed the same actors to show up. And if somebody didn't want to show up, then I had to write a reason why they didn't want to show up and then bring somebody else in and whatever else. With play shorts, it was, it's episodic. It's anthology. It's 2 actors, 1 story, 1 genre, then it ends. Then there's another one. 2 different actors, different story, different genre, then it ends. So, and they're all running like about 10 minutes-ish. And they're all really simple, just 2 people talking. Sometimes guns get involved, but most of the time it's just 2 people talking. And that is a lot easier to mix and match with, I had one situation with play shorts where I had a cast, I had a location, I tried to schedule it for 6 weeks. The actors couldn't come up with dates. And I was just like, all right, 6 weeks is long enough for me to keep scheduling. We're done. I was just like, sorry, everybody, I'm going to shoot something else because we can't seem to find a date. And life's short. I didn't say that, but life is short. So I had another story and another cast in 3 days, and we shot the next week. So be willing to pull the plug on stuff. Don't be afraid to walk away from stuff. Sometimes it's better to walk away than. There's been stuff that I've been like, I'm just gonna put up with more of this bullshit because it's gonna eventually lead to something else, and it never did. Ever. It was just bullshit.
You talked about endings. Where does a story begin for you? How do you know you have a beginning of a story? When you're sitting down to write, or you're at a coffee shop, or wherever. I think ideas kind of just find you and track you down, and sometimes they run away. I think with like Bob buries things, it was just a guy who buries things in his backyard, and I knew what he was burying in his backyard, and I didn't know why. So the story was why for me. So I didn't know so I didn't have the whole thing at that point. And then when I cooked it, I came up, beginning, middle, and end, and cooked up other characters and then started diving in. I want to know enough where I'm going, but not so much that I'm not going to have any fun. If I outline the crap out of it, then I'm just typing what I did in the outline, and all the fun was in the outline. I want to just like bare bones outline, just this happens, and this happens, and this happens. Okay? And then I can make everybody talk and have fun and hit those points. It's a lot easier to do it that way. But I don't know how I know if I have a story. I think I don't know it right away. With play shorts, I wrote a bunch of those at a theater in Santa Monica in 4 hours. So I had to write that to be ready to be rehearsed and then be on stage in 10 hours. So I had 4 hours to write, they had 6 hours to rehearse, and then it was on stage twice. So I did that like 40 times. So if you do that enough, so I have to sit down, I've got 2 people, I know who they are, and I don't have their resume, I just have their headshots. So who are they? What do they want? What do they do? What do they want from each other? I would cook the whole thing, and I'd watch the other writers, and the other writers were tapping away, like right away, and I'm with a legal pad, like for an hour, like, and this, and then but this, and then once I have it all, I'm like, okay, so that, and that. All right, and then I would start typing, because then I wouldn't have to rewrite it. Because I think when you start writing before you have the bare bones of it, you're just making a big mess for you to fix. So like, no lie, I made a big mess in the book. I wrote the book, I was close to where I knew the ending was starting, and I'm like, something doesn't feel right. I read the entire book, and there's a big dead spot. And I'm like, this is a red herring, this shouldn't take up this much time. So I cut and paste just that section. I put it in another document. It was 14,000 words. I cut 11,000 words out of it. And they're gone. They're nowhere else in the book. They're gone. Because they didn't need to be there. But I didn't know that until I could see the structure
And I knew this little part of the story didn't need all this shit. But I didn't know it until I saw it. It was kind of like, if I wrote a screenplay and I had a bunch of scenes and the movie kind of drags at this point, can we just cut these scenes? It's that kind of thing. But you don't know it until you've got it built. And you can't have it built until you've built it. You're writing and it just goes up, and then when it's done, you're like, the windows are all in the wrong places. Then you gotta move it around, do it again.